recording and unfreeze. Aha. Cool, it's working. All right, cool. That's some crazy delay. So here we have my table of books. You noticed I added a column called genre. I also inserted a whole bunch of data. But now, how do we actually view the data inside of our table? So our first SQL command that actually operates on data itself, it's a select statement. So it goes like this. It selects the keyword. Then it's a list of columns that we want to actually select. So I want to select the title, the author, and the published year from books. So this will select for me the 3 columns, title, author, and published year from the books table. Semicolon. Now this returns to me the books that are in my database, but it only returns to me the title, the author, and the published year, and that's it.
Can you put the semicolon on the same line?
You can, and you should.
Yeah.
I just usually forget about it.
Me too. Especially because I come from languages that don't have semicolons.
Yeah, I'm used to SQL statements not having semicolons, but that's a story for a different day. So now we have the results. These results aren't stored anywhere. I haven't lost the other 3 or 4 columns. This is just a specific view on my data. So it's not stored in a file somewhere. It's not stored. It's not permanent. It's just looking at it through a different lens. So that's fine and dandy. A shortcut, something that you'll see me probably do a lot, is whenever I do, instead of naming out every single column that I want to see, we can do select star from books, and that will give us all the columns.
Semicolon?
Yep.
Select a star from books.
Yep.
Semicolon. And yours probably doesn't come back with anything, right? Yeah, yours probably comes back empty.
Yeah.
This is because Mark has, in the background while you're all in break, he went in and put a whole bunch of rows, looks like 12 rows in his database. So if you're selecting title, author, published year from books, you're probably getting back 0 rows. And select star from books is probably giving you back 0 rows. So there must be a way for us to put data in the database.
Yep. So let's fix that, and let's actually insert some data into our database. So it's Command K to clear my screen.
Yes.
Haha.
That works in any terminal. It's a terminal thing, not a PGCLI
Oh.
thing. It's terminals clear my screen and the history buffer. So
Oh.
you notice your history buffer is also clear.
Yeah.
There's an alternative that will just clear your screen without clearing the history buffer.
Okay. I usually just type clear and call it a day.
Yes. So one of the reasons why I like Command K in the terminal is often like you're running code in the terminal and there's errors, and then you run some more code and you don't know, well, like you want to be able to quickly look at my terminal and say, well, is that error from the last time I ran it or from 3 times ago? Command K.
Clear to start.
Yes, clear to start clears. Right, Control Command L will clear the screen, but Command K clears the screen and the entire history. So if any past errors or output is gone, I'm only looking at what I'm working on right now. So if you're ever like, my terminal has too much stuff in it, Command K is like, leaves your terminal running but clears all the junk from the scrolling. Right, and now you see your scroll bar is empty. And it's also not a control command key, like control command L for clearing the screen.
Yeah. Okay.
So I'm just I'm a command K guy.
I might have to start trying that now.
Yeah.
So, book collection, we need to insert some data. So now we're going to use an insert statement. So insert into books. And now this statement takes 2 separate lists. The first list is the columns that we want to insert values into. The second list is a parallel list of the values that we want to insert. So I want to insert,
Maybe you want to show the columns, yeah.
yep, so I want to insert into books. I want to insert the title, the author, the published year, publisher is in stock, number of pages, and genre.
So all that list of columns, comma separated, goes inside of parentheses.
Yep.
And you can put a parenthesis before the parenthesis. You can put a space between the S and the parentheses if you like. It's optional. So back in the beginning where Mark had insert into books, you can put a space there if you like. You don't have to.
So we don't have genre. What happens if we type it in?
Genre,
then
it will,
give you an error.
yes,
It'll say you're trying to insert into a column that doesn't exist.
Yes.
Just use the ones that you created.
Yep.
Gotcha.
Is
And
there a
then-
way to like click back into the line?
No, you can just
No.
use the left and right arrow.
Yep.
Left and right arrow keys on
Yep.
your keyboard.
So now I want to give it the actual values that I want to insert for each column. Now I want to say a parallel list. That's a fancy term for saying, hey, the first item in the second list lines up with the first item in the first list. So the first thing I want to put in is the title. What's someone's favorite book? Not all at once.
Jitterbug Perfume. Tom Robbins?
Jitterbug Perfume.
Yes.
By who?
Tom Robbins?
Do you know what year it's published?
Let's say 87.
7. Who published it? Penguin?
Harper. Oh, it might, well, I don't know.
Those are
Penguin.
single
Let's say
quotes, right?
Penguin.
Yes. Is in stock, is true. Number of pages is, we'll go with 536. And genre is,
Call it fantasy, I guess.
all right. So yes, so strings are single quotes. Double quotes will not work. Integers are integers. Boolean is just the value true or false. Now I believe you can also use 1 and 0.
You can do quote T and quote F.
Yeah, there's some other weird things you'll probably see in the wild, but really it should be true or false. So now I'm going to run this, and I get this message back. Insert 0, 1. That 1 is how many rows were inserted. Do you know what that 0 is?
I think it's the rows that were upserted or updated. Because
Okay.
you do upserts.
Yeah.
I think it's updated rows and inserted rows.
Okay. So yeah, so that's always good feedback. You should see a 1 in there because we did insert 1 row. So now when we do our select star from books, we should see Jitterbug Perfume. Sounds like a really fun book.
Oh, it's awesome. I'd call it fiction, actually, but it's like Siddhartha, but fleshed out like Lord of the Rings, kind of like crazy adventure.
Okay then, I'm going to add that to my reading list now.
Yeah.
So now that we've inserted data, we can now view the data coming back. So,
So if you can get the insert 0, 1,
did you add the semicolon? That's always the first question with stuff like that.
The 0 is an OID, an object identifier type. That's what the 0 is.
Oh, okay.
I'm not exactly sure what OIDs are, but that's what that 0 is.
Good to know. I'm going to assume as long as it's 0, we're good.
Yeah, unless you've created tables with object identifiers, they'll always be a 0.
Okay.
And then the 1 is,
How many were modified?
so now, yeah, if you're all doing this, or you put your favorite book in, if you do select star from books,
Yep.
semicolon, you should get back your 1 book.
So now that you did that, now that you have put in that 1 book, go ahead and add 1 or 2 books real fast.
Can you give them a copy paste from your list of books? You can throw them a couple
Yeah.
answer statements into Slack.
Yeah, I can do that.
Then you can kind of copy. People can copy possibly get a few in there.
Yes. Let's just kind of do.
So if you don't have genre, you'll have to take the genre part out.
Then actually, I will actually add a little query in here.
Ah, there we go.
So the way to add a column, we can kind of sidebar this. We can kind of sidetrack a little bit. Before we create a table, right? Create table with a list of columns and types, right? Well, here, if we ever want to go back and change the table, we run an alter table command. Alter table, then the table name, and then we want to add a column called genre type text. It's very Englishy, like I want to alter the table books. I want to add the column called genre, and it's of type text. So I will add this. I'll throw this in Slack real fast.
I would suggest copy the first couple lines and try the first, the one or two inserts before you grab the whole thing in case you have to run into some errors.
Yes.
So maybe just grab this first block.
Yep.
And just try that first block to make sure that works, and then you can come back and grab the rest later. If you run into an error, I'll come help you.
So I understood in the book, kept year one, but it's like start from both of them.
Okay.
Semicolon. Semicolon's at the end of every line.
And I get out of this.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I didn't cute.
Mark didn't type it, and he put a semicolon on the next line.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So a couple times he's left the semicolon off. You just type it on the next line.
To get out of that screen, it's cute.
Thank you.
Yeah, you got it.
Some of y'all are getting stuck on that select screen now. You run like the select command, and now you're kind of stuck there.
Oh, it's a pager.
Yeah. So select star from books.
Semicolon.
Why is it not paging for me now?
Maybe because you didn't have any scroll. Make your font bigger. And then try it. Because the first time it happened to you, your font was bigger. Yeah.
There we go.
You're in something that might look like this.
Right? You have the results, whole bunch of tildes right down the line, and you're like, how do I get out of
And
here?
this word end at the bottom. Anybody get stuck in something like that?
To get out of it, Q.
So you're inside what terminal programs called a pager, a P-A-G-E-R. So what if we had 10 million books in our database and we did select star from books? We'd sit there scrolling 10 million entries into our terminal, and 15 minutes later it would stop. So PG-CLI is protecting us and saying, well, I'm going to only show you one page of data at a time. So if Mark had 500 books in his database, he would only see maybe the first, he's probably got 40 lines on his screen. Right? So he would only see the first some rows. Yeah, try making your font really big, like ridiculously big. Yeah, okay, so now look at this. Now look at the pager. It's not an end, it's a colon. So the colon in a pager says there's more data. So if he presses return, he gets a line at a time. If he presses the space bar, he gets a page at a time. So if you've ever been you do a Google search, right? It comes back with 10 trillion rows, and it gives you a little 1, 2, 3, 4, or G-O-O-O-O. That's pagination on the web. This is the same thing here. Return goes one line at a time. Spacebar goes a page at a time. Slash lets you search, and Q lets you quit. Those are pretty much the only commands at this point you need to know about a pager if you ever end up in one. Right? So if you ever get stuck somewhere and you see that little colon floating at the bottom left-hand corner of your screen, or the N, Q gets you out of it, spacebar goes a page at a time. Those are the two most important things to know. And now he's at the end and he can Q to quit. And you can queue to quit at any point, right? If you're sitting at the colon prompt waiting the page, queue will get you out of there too. And just like there are many different editors, there are also very many different pagers. But the space, the enter, and the queue are pretty consistent amongst all of them.
Whenever I'm stuck on a weird screen, queue is part of my, like, what commands do I get out of here?
Yeah.
Just because page are so common.
Yeah. Q, Control C,
Yep.
exit, quit, Control D.
Yep. That's pretty much like the commands that I use. It's just like, I don't know what the screen is. I'm going to run through the common, like, what program is used to quit stuff. Maybe one of them will work. Like if I go to exit a node REPL, I think it's exit parenthesis.
So Mark, if I try to input alter table books, add column, genre, text on its own, it's just going to give me book collection dash, right?
Yeah, it should.
Oh, no column.
You need a semicolon too.
Yeah, that's what it was.
Boom. And your alt table is altered.
Okay.
Nice.
Thank you. That's
So
semicolon.
did everybody get a couple books inserted? One or two books inserted?
It's just formatted differently, so I'm having to go back and like edit pieces of it because it's not formatted the same way. 'Cause
You gotta grab both those lines.
I did the first time,
Can you
but
change the genre?
I don't have a genre, so I
Oh.
add a genre.
Would you be able to put them all in at one time, just like that, by copying them all?
So
Yeah,
That's what I did. I just kind of like copy it all, paste them all.
I did it twice.
Right, Slack. Very first.
And if you put the same one in multiple times, you just kind of have different copies of it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So if you like, if you paste and then paste again, you know, it's you'll get 2 copies of everything.
Right, now you can paste any of those.
Okay.
So grab one of them.
Let me send it to you.
This is killing me right
Copy that.
So after I put in the whole stack of them, it still gave me insert 0,
Yep.
space 1.
Yep, for each one, because each one is its
Oh,
own
for each
separate
one.
command.
See that?
Yep.
So anybody else not have a couple of rows of books in there? It'll help when we do some selects.
One
We'll see.
second.
Yeah.
Still getting there.
Okay.
I'm also not contagious anymore. That work?
Can I just copy and paste the old ones?
You feeling
I
better?
just gave you one.
Yes, much better.
Cool. Are you hanging around or are you out?
No, I was gonna go, but I just wanted to say happy birthday.
Thank you.
and see everybody.
Congratulations, by the way. Again.
I
Yeah.
got fingerprinted today.
In the good way, it sounds like.
They're like a medical company.
Yeah,
so
that's
it's
good.
the intake for like all new employees. Like I got there with like a nurse and like some counselor person.
Do they do the retina scans?
No. But I had to have a picture
Congratulations.
taken, I have a background check, I had to do like a drug test,
Mhm.
fingerprints, yeah.
All exciting. Good
Yeah.
for you. Congrats.
Good.
I'm the
Where
only
is the
developer
job?
on the IT team.
Nice.
Clearwater.
Maybe you don't.
Oh, nice
So
location,
not
too.
Kansas.
Not Kansas, here.
Okay.
Nice.
Nice.
Yes.
Sweet.
So I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
You're fine. Congratulations again.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Awesome.
Don't ring the
See you
bell.
around.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Hit the bell.
I didn't hope.
There it is.
Yay.
It said insert one row. So it worked.
Okay.
So you can insert as many of those books as you like. It should just say insert one every time you insert one book. So get a couple in there, 3, 4, 5.
Yeah, get a
dozen.
few.
Just a few.
So now we're going to build up our select statement a little bit. Bring this up. So before, we're doing select star from books. And this is grabbing all of our books. Well, that's all fine and dandy. But usually we want to filter down that result set somehow. We can do this by adding a where clause. So the where clause accepts any sort of Boolean logic expression, and any row that equates to true will be returned. So if we recall, I think I had some books in there from R.L. Stein. So I can do where author equals R.L. Stein. Semicolon.
So this is interesting, Mark. this is the first time we're seeing in a language where
Mm-hmm.
the comparison is a single equals. Right? In JavaScript, we use 3 equals. In Ruby, we use 2 equals. In SQL, we use 1 equals. I feel like we're running out of equals, right? Like 1 less equals. But in SQL, the comparison is a single equals,
Mhm.
right? Where the author is R.L. Stein.
I was missing a space.
Yeah, R dot space. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
So now this is only returning these 2 books, and that's it. So now I can do other things. I can query based on like, is the year in the 90s? Is the genre horror? Select star from books where published year is greater than or equal to 1950 and published year is less than or equal to,
You have an ED on published.
okay, I do, is less than 1960. This will give me all my books that are published in the 50s. We have Lord of the Rings.
So in SQL, the logical and is not 2 ampersands like we had in JavaScript, same in Ruby. Here the and is the word and. You'll find that SQL tries to use familiar English words
Yep.
in place of symbols in most all places. And it makes it really nice to read this out loud, right? Select and give me everything from books where the published year is more than 1950 and the published year is less than 1960. Right? Its goal is to try to be an English-like language as best it can. When we get to joins, you'll think, yeah, that's crazy. That does not sound like English when we start to add in joins, but it's pretty good in terms of languages for querying data.
Feeling good so far? So we did querying a little bit. We can do little complex wheres. We did inserting data. Just to kind of go through the basic CRUD actions: create, read, update, delete. What if we want to update data? Ooh, right? Select star from.
One for out of R.L. Stein books.
Ooh, yes. Yes, so all of our R.L. Stein books are no longer inside of our collection. They're checked out or sold or.
Not in stock anymore.
Yes, not in stock. So we want to set this is in stock to false. So it's going to be update books, then set. Now this is where it's different from insert. It's not that those parallel lists. It's just saying, hey, go to my books table, update, set is in stock, equal to false. Now if I run this, don't run this yet.
Don't run it.
Yes, if you run this command, it's going to update every single row with that. So we can use the where clause that we learned about in the select to say, hey, only update is in stock to false where author equals R.L. Stein.
I really wish that the where on this came first.
Yes.
Ask Jason sometime to tell a funny story about where he did a delete and he left the where off on the production database at his job.
Yeah.
He wanted to delete all of the orders that had been fulfilled, right? Delete all of the orders where fulfilled equals true. He left the where part off.
Yeah.
Deleted all the orders from the database.
Because just like our update, kind of that's a good segue into the delete. Delete from books. This will delete all my books. So I have to remember to add where.
Published year is the year 1492.
Yeah. Yep.
I think there'd be like a catch there. Like, are you sure?
Yeah, well, we're programmers, and programmers are trusted. Right, our tools are trusting us.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, we deleted 0 rows. Good.
Yes.
There are no books published in 1492 in our database. So if you do your select statement again for R.L. Stein, will we see our hey, they're no longer in stock.
Mhm.
That is false.
Yes, so this update command, and you can put more than one columns here if you'd really like to. Comma separated list. So it would look.
We can put them, maybe we put them back in stock.
Yep. Update books set is in stock equal to true. And genre equals kid horror. Or children horror. That's probably a better one. Children horror. Where author equals R.L. Stein. Semicolon.
And can you just up arrow one time so we can see it because we're blocked by the,
Oh, yeah.
there's a dead spot in the projector.
Oh, okay. Yeah, so update books. Set all these columns equal to these values. Where author equals R.L. Stein. You see, I ran it. I got now update 2, because that's how many rows that I have modified. That's the computer giving us a little bit of hint, kind of like, hey, I did something. This is how many rows I changed. It should be reasonable. I know we have 2 books inside of our database. It's 2. If that was set to like 12 or something like I know is wrong, that's kind of like a warning sign for me that I just did something wrong.
And
Or
what's nice is,
0.
and we'll talk about it as a side lecture if anybody's interested. There isn't like an undo feature built into the relation database. If Mark had created what we call a transaction, then he could do all of these statements inside the transaction and decide whether or not he wants to commit that transaction, right? Or he could roll back the transaction.
Yep.
So he could do a whole bunch of inserts and updates all inside of a transaction, but none of it is actually going to the database until he says commit. So that's kind of your question, Frank, like what do we do if we do like delete from books and we don't do the where?
Yeah.
Hopefully you're inside of a transaction. And if you were, you could just be like, nope, roll that back. And it will actually undo that. It will undo that change. The typical example of where transactions are important is, what if we were making a banking system and I wanted to withdraw some money from Mark's account and deposit it into mine, right? So imagine we write an update statement that says, update Mark's bank account to have $10 less than it had before. And then as a separate statement, update my row with $10 more. But what would happen if after Mark's update happened, if the network went down, or the server shut down, or the program stopped, or someone hit Control-C? That $10 would be lost. It's out of Mark's account, but it's not in mine yet. So if we had wrapped those 2 update statements inside of what's called a transaction, both those statements would happen all at once we committed the transaction. Or we could take the $10 out of Mark's account, we could put it into my account, and then decide some other condition is true, right? Or we have like usually, are you sure? And then we could roll back the transaction, and the database would undo those steps. But that's a topic we can talk about. That as a deeper topic on another day.
Yep.
And the Ruby folks will probably talk about transactions when we get to Rails.
Ooh, fancy.
So there are some undos if you
Yes.
screw up. Unfortunately, Jason had not started the transaction when he did that command.
So we did update to delete a little bit. We saw the delete books from. Now this will delete everything where post year was 1492. Again, be careful with that. What else? We did create, read, update, delete. What are the thoughts from the audience?
Is there any way to roll back like Jason's error?
If he had started a transaction, yes. Otherwise, no.
Yep.
He would have. So what he ended up doing was he had a printed list of all of the. He had a data file somewhere else of all of the transactions.
Yeah.
And he had to write a program to recreate them.
Yes. So what I like to do with my delete statements is, if you notice, this is very similar to a select statement, right? It's like 2 words off.
Why did you end up deleting all the R.L. Stein books?
Yeah, so if I actually wanted to craft like we're delete all R.L. Stein books, I personally would do a select star from books, and then I'd craft my where clause. Because then I can actually see what I'll be deleting. So author equals R L Stein. And you're like, I do actually want to delete those 2 books. Then I just take that query and head back to it and change the select star to a delete. You'd be like, okay, I deleted 2, and those are the 2 rows that I just deleted. So it's a way for me to personally to kind of like double check myself that I'm still, to kind of prevent me from pulling a JSON.
There's also a
Which I've done
like,
before, by the way.
Yeah, if you're in SQL on the database in production, right?
Yeah.
Like all your spidey senses should be on. Like
Yes.
the hairs on the back of your neck should be standing up, right? Like you're gonna be super careful with everything. We don't spend time as developers doing that very often.
Mm-hmm.
Like 0.01% of the time are you on the production database live without any kind of
Mm-hmm.
safety net.
Mm-hmm.
The Rails environment gives you a production console,
Mm-hmm.
but that whole console is in read-only mode. So you can go and query data, but you can't change anything.
Okay,
You have to run a different command to change something.
that's nice.
So there are some safety nets,
Mhm.
but we don't often find ourselves in the production database
Yeah.
as a SQL statement,
Yeah,
just writing delete from.
yeah, that's usually not a good sign.
Does Link have any like safety nets or?
It does not the number because that's a Rails tool specific.
Yeah, it's not a part of the framework. It's part
Yeah.
of the commands that you run to get access to the database
Mm-hmm.
that put you in what we call a sandbox. There's
Yeah.
a sandbox mode you can run the app in.
So
But most of the code that you write, I know for Rails, all of the code we write in our Rails applications are inside of transactions by default.
mhm.
So you have rollback capability built in
Yep.
to that. And .NET has the same
Yes,
rollback commit
Yep.
transactions.
yes, it does. So if we're feeling good, we've been in a tool called pSQL this whole time. So pSQL is the command line tool to get out of it. /Q. Now we're back to our terminal. So now we're back to our terminal here. pSQL is all fine and dandy, but it's very basic. You notice that it's missing a couple of key features for a code editor, like IntelliSense and autocomplete. So there's another wrapper around Postgres that is called PGCLI. PGCLI acts and behaves a lot like Postgres, almost identically. So if I wanted to connect to a database, PGCLI book collections. Now to
for the Mac, yep, sorry, you were going there.
Yes, to install this on the Mac side, brew install PGCLI.
And the Linux folks, it's apt install PGCLI.
Mm-hmm.
Sudo,
Yeah, sudo. Mhm.
make me a sandwich.
Yes.
I'm sorry, what
PG.
is it?
PG.
PGCLI. This is a command line tool that sits on top of pSQL that is a more developer-friendly work environment.
So the CLI here stands for Command Line Interface, which is another fancy word for a REPL, which is just another fancy word for give me space bracket type commands into my
Mm-hmm.
environment.
So if it does nothing, it's a good thing.
Yes.
Mine's installed.
Yes. So once you install, you can run PGCLI book collection, and you should connect to the exact same. It should look reasonably the same. It's say, hey, you're connected to the database book collection, and now I'm waiting for you to run a SQL command.
apt-get install or apt install.
Okay.
Apt is a
I
newer
thought we called it
tool
books,
around
why is it book
apt-get.
collection?
Gotcha.
Our database is
Basically,
called
basically
book
the same.
collection.
Okay.
Our table is called books. So if we run a /d,
Whoa! Look at that.
you'll notice our first command, IntelliSense pops up. This is it going, hey, you started to type /. Here's all the different commands you can actually run here.
You can use the down arrow key to scroll through them.
Yep.
Look at that. And there's even more because you can see the little scroll bar.
It's like,
Look at that.
I want to list my tables. So Shay, our table is called books, but our actual database is called book collection.
You're going to find that eventually your database is going to have more than one table.
Mhm.
So your computer will have many databases, and your databases are going to have many tables, and your tables are going to have many columns.
Do you have to control C out of, so like after I installed it, it didn't give me the equals, it gave me the dash, so
So no, you're still in P-SQL. So you didn't do
F2
the
smart
Mark said,
completion on it.
quit out
It's
of
just giving me a status.
Yep.
I did it
Yep,
backwards.
I mean, so smart
Now
completion
you're back in
is
your
that
program.
IntelliSense thing. We also kind of went on. We can do multi-line queries now, so this is if we want to put like multiple inserts on one line. Since that's off, it knows that every command I type is now one line, so I don't need to put the semicolon there
Yeah.
anymore.
Did anybody hear that? Because that was like a super hot tip, and you all were talking and not listening.
Yeah.
What was the super hot tip?
So the super hot tip, Frank saw down here at the bottom. There's a couple of things happening right now. The smart completion is that IntelliSense for like what it's trying to give me. So that's always on by default. The other one is multi-line, and if that's on, I can actually type multiple queries in one line. But since that's off, it assumes every line I type is a query, and it automatically adds a semicolon after I type it.
That's why Mark in P-SQL was so not using semicolons.
Yeah, I'm just like, oh, I don't need to use this. This is such
The
a better tool.
semicolons are part of the command, but PGCLI is smart enough to say, well, you're going to type all your commands on one line anyway, I will throw the semicolon on there for you. And if you also notice, it's trying to autocomplete the name of his tables,
Mm-hmm.
it's autocompleting the name of the columns, even the names of the commands. If you go back to the select, delete all the way back, and just type in the SEL. Look at that, right? So tab to complete. So it's even auto-completing the commands. If you scroll down here, I think, no, it actually doesn't give you the columns because it doesn't know what they are yet.
Oh, because it doesn't know
It
what.
doesn't know what table you're on.
So PGCLI doesn't understand Control C.
It probably will.
It's not clearing.
Command. Oh, you mean Command K?
Oh, was it Command K?
Yes.
Well, it is because you're on a new command now. Right.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And then Command K would get rid of
Command
it.
K, yeah.
That's still waiting in the library.
Yep.
Well, not library. What's the term?
The
Database.
So you're in the command line interface, the REPL or the CLI.
Why?
I got it.
Why do I have like many?
Because that's the whole history of everything you've been doing for a while. Right? Because in the terminal, unless you clear your terminal, all the history of everything that was ever output is there. Right? Just like when you type yarn start, you see the history of the things that came before it. Right? Or if you're just doing commands in the command line, you have an ever infinite scrollback buffer of all the things you have done until you close that terminal. Right? This is one of the reasons I like Command K every once in a while, because I don't care about what the output of the command I did an hour ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I will work for a little while and I'm working on something now, I'm going to Command K clear my history buffer so my terminal doesn't have a very long scrollback. But unfortunately, if you're inside of a tool like this, Command K,
Yeah, I can't do anything anymore.
yeah, you can, you just have to type blindly or hit Control C.
Use the space to pick from the drop down after you've
You were in the pager.
This tab will just take you to the next thing.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I usually select it
If
and then
you're-
enter.
If there's more data,
Enter.
you can hit the
Yeah,
other screen.
so enter or
You were in
space.
the point where it had the ends.
Select
You were in the
star.
pager, we said before, the pager
If I hit
is
enter,
showing
it gives
you
me
what
syntax error,
pager
it should
data at a
complete.
time.
So
Space bar.
I'm gonna tell you the keystrokes that I'm typing as I type. So SE tab space star space F tab space. So I'm typing the first letter and saying, oh, books. So I'm using tab to select the first option in the list, where genre equals horror, and year published year is less than 2,000. So really, to type that statement, I typed SE tab enter space star space F tab space book, which is BO tab space. So I'm using my IntelliSense. So I typed maybe about 30% of that line myself, and the rest was populated from that smart completion. This is what we were talking about this morning, using the tools available to you.
But if you want to take the whole thing, that's fine too.
Oh yeah, that's perfectly fine too. And I almost recommend it for practice. Just tossing that out there.
Because you might be in a tool that does not have
Yep.
smart completion.
Yep.
A lot of sense. What I like it for is when I type select star from, and it gives me the list of all my tables. I don't have to remember, was it book or books or my books or the books.
Yep.
I'm like, oh, it's books, BOOKS.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Where space, is it genre or style? Was it called
Yeah.
published year with an
I was gonna say, is it published year, published date, year published 1 word, year published 2 words? Like, what is it? It just tells me it. I don't have to recall that. I don't have to go through Slack and dig out the ERD that was sent to me.
All of the things that we can do in PSQL, we can do in PGCLI. It's just a better version of the built-in tool.
Yep.
Right, Mark's in the pager again, and he hits Q to get back.
Mm-hmm.
It's also nice because it has some like syntax highlighting and colors for the keywords.
Mhm.
Strings are in red and numbers are in like this gray.
Yep.
And just a slightly nicer command line tool, command line interface, REPL, for
Mm-hmm.
getting access to our database. So you can use either, whichever one you like. Both are good.
Yep. I'd recommend this one, but that's
Yeah.
just me and probably Gavin.
And if you're adventurous and you want to go find a graphical interface for accessing your database, come ask us which the good ones are. And
Yes.
we'll tell you.
Yeah, I know I personally will say wait until Monday, but that's just me. Gavin might say differently.
Yeah. We suggest you start with the command line because that's going to be always available to you, but there
Mhm.
are graphical
Yeah.
environments to do.
And the reason why we say that is the same reason why we, you always have that, but also the graphical interfaces make it seem like you're just working in an Excel file when it's actually doing all these commands for you in the background. But we need to know what those commands are in the background to actually understand what's going on, because we won't always have that nice little graphical interface. And also, when we get next week, whenever we're creating our own APIs, we'll be creating SQL statements in our given languages. So we'll be using Ruby to create SQL statements. So we have to understand what commands we're actually creating when we use Ruby or .NET.
Yeah, so for the Ruby students, we'll be writing database. We'll be working with our database. We'll be writing Ruby code to do it,
Mm-hmm.
and the Ruby code is going to generate the SQL for
Yep.
us.
Same with
Right?
.NET.
So you're going to be writing linked statements to generate SQL. We'll be writing
Yep.
Ruby methods
Mhm.
to generate the SQL. So it's good for us to know the SQL underpinnings,
Mm-hmm.
because you need to know what your language is doing for you. And from time to time, you need to write your own SQL statements. But as a professional Ruby and database developer,
Yep.
On the 10 years that I worked on a project with thousands and thousands of lines of code, I've probably written 6 SQL statements.
Yep.
It was like, oh, this is hard to do in my Ruby world. I
Mhm.
need to drop down to the low-level details of SQL maybe 6 times.
Yeah, it's usually my guiding stars whenever there's production apps is if I'm writing SQL statements, I'm either doing A, something really wrong, or B, something very complex, and I need the raw power of SQL. So it's pretty much those two extremes are the only reasons why I dive down deep into this. For everything else, I still need to know what's going on. I still need to know what a select is, what a where is, how I'm actually building the where clauses, but I'm doing it in whatever language that I'm working in.
Yeah. So this is why we teach the straight SQL, because SQL is SQL no matter what language you go to. How you get to that SQL statement
Mm-hmm.
will change from language to language. It's kind of this is just like we say, kind of JavaScript is the universal language of the web. SQL is is the universal language of relational databases.
Mhm.
And relational databases are 90% of what you're going to run to.
And,
starting out as a developer.
and even in those non-relational databases, those NoSQL databases, these concepts still exist. They're just implemented in a different way, and the syntax is different.
And there are a number of jobs that are essentially like report writing, data analysis jobs, where you spend your day in SQL.
Mm-hmm.
If you go and talk to analytics folks,
Yep.
Go to the part of your department at your work if they have a lot of data, right? There are going to be people who their job is to craft SQL statements, insert statements, update statements, delete statements to manage the data that's in that database,
Mm-hmm.
right? To go generate reports,
Yep.
etc. So
At one of my jobs, our business analysts, which are the ones that are like writing the requirements and writing the specs for the project we're working on, they would actually write SQL statements, and it's like, this is the data we need to see on the page and in this order, and actually give me the SQL statement for me to A, optimize, and B, turn into a website. So it was used as almost a specification, a way to double check of what's going on.
what's really interesting is one of the more popular, it's in Ruby, but it's also pretty popular outside of Ruby, performance monitoring tools for websites where you send all your, how fast are my queries running, what's the CPU load on my server,
Mm-hmm.
how busy is my network, how many users are currently logged in, you send all that data to this tool. And then it has some built-in reports, but it has its own reporting engine, and it is a slight derivation of SQL.
Cool.
Probably 75% the same as normal SQL.
Mm-hmm.
So this type of statement you will also see other people adopt because it's just so common as a language.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why it's just a good to know.
Oh yeah.
And now you know 3 languages:
Hey, how about that?
JavaScript, Ruby/C# and
SQL. Yep.
SQL. Because it is a language unto itself.
Mm-hmm.
In more complex things, but this again is database specific. There are variables, there are loops, there are methods and functions.
Mm-hmm.
All of the things you might expect from a programming language do exist here. They're just done slightly differently based on the database engine.
Mm-hmm.
Right, so we've kind of shown you the core 4 things you need to know about databases, but it is a full language.
Oh yeah.
Right. Many of the programs you've written, we could write in Postgres's
Mm-hmm.
SQL language.
Be a fun challenge to write blackjack.
Yeah, that'd be awesome. Students will be killing us.
Yeah.
But mostly what you need to know to be effective are essentially the 4
Oh yeah.
the 4 things we've shown. And we're going to see next week when we start connecting our language and the web and the database together, that those 4 ideas come together in something that Mark said earlier, which is this idea of CRUD applications:
Mm-hmm.
create, read, update, and delete.
Mm-hmm.
And we're going to see how that idea and the web and APIs and databases all come together early next week.
Yep.
Cool.
What other questions we have? We're done a bit early. That's awesome. Homework tonight is going to be create for me a simple database and create a couple queries for me. In order to turn it in, we only want to see these SQL queries that you run. We don't care about what data you put inside your database, but we want to see your create query. We want to see your select query. We want to see the actual queries that you're running. And to do that, I believe the homework says to create a gist. Have we heard of gist before?
I don't think we've done gists.
So let's make a gist. So if I want to make a gist of the SQL statement here, I'm going to copy it. Drink. And now gist is a offshoot of GitHub. Gist.github.com.
So if you have a GitHub account, you have a gist account or gist account. Right? Still tied to your GitHub.
Yep. And what this is, GitHub is a way to share code, an entire code base with other people. Gist is a way to share code snippets with other people. So I'm going to come in here, homework.sql, name the file, and then paste in my script there.
And you can paste in multiple lines.
Oh, yeah.
As he's working through his various queries and he's getting them work, he's going to just insert all the rest.
Mm-hmm. And then once I'm done, I have 2 options: create a secret or a public gist. It actually doesn't matter which one you do. The difference is whether it's searchable by other people or not. So it's up to you. I usually create a secret gist, and it gives me a unique URL that's linked to this code. Just send me that code. Just send me this link right here on your homework.
How was it?
Everyone, or,
Everyone's gonna make their own.
no, I mean like, Ruby's sending ours to you, or?
Yeah. It's,
No, you're gonna post that as the URL in the homework. In the homework, normally you give a GitHub URL. So
yeah.
you know when you go to your homework and you copy and paste your GitHub URL and you close the homework, paste that one instead.
If we post a bunch of gists, does it turn our score tree?
No, these don't count for your. I don't think these count for
No.
your GitHub.
I'm pretty sure they don't.
No.
I'd be shocked if they do.
I don't think they do.
Okay. So also for your homework, in addition to crafting me a few SQL queries, I want y'all to get started about your capstones. I know we pitched ideas last Wednesday, I believe. That was the timeline. A few of you talked to me. So talk to one of us today, nail down your idea, and start working on the wireframes for your capstone. So wireframes, have we built wireframes before?
We haven't talked about that way back in week 1 and 2.
Okay, yeah, so
Sketches.
we know that wireframes are sketches of what your website should look like. These should be pretty detailed sketches. It should not just be like, here's a couple boxes and call it a day. It's actually like, what is your website going to look like? This helps kind of formulating your ideas and formulating what exactly you have to create, what buttons, what div, what text is there. So start working on those tonight as well. And that'll, of course, be in the homework. And whenever you turn those in, those aren't due tonight. Those are due in a couple days. Whenever you turn those in, they can be using a wireframe tool like Mockup or something like that online, or it can be pictures of a notebook or pictures of a whiteboard. As long as it's getting the idea around across and you're saving it somewhere. Feeling good? I'm feeling great.
Yeah.
All right. That being said, homework will be out soon. Other than that, with me at 3. We'll see how the afternoon goes, but with me at 3 here.
Right. Break.